The story begins with Captain America having a terrible nightmare. He sees himself in the middle of a brutal war, badly injured and surrounded by chaos. As he struggles, a man approaches him, Frank Simpson. Frank looks down at Steve with a mocking expression and says, "Look at you, Rogers. You wear that flag on your chest, but you don't even know what it stands for. You want to understand what America really means? Come find me and I'll show you." Steve tries to fight back, but before he can do anything, he wakes up in a hospital bed, breathing heavily. Captain America blinks and looks around, realizing he's not in a battlefield. He's in a hospital room. Carol Danvers, the acting director of Xtraordinary, stands beside him. "Cap!" she calls out. Steve, still a bit disoriented, replies, "What?" Carol studies him closely and asks, "You were talking in your sleep. Bad dream?" Steve shakes his head, trying to clear his mind. "I don't dream. Where the hell am I, Danvers?" Carol lets out a sigh. "What's the last thing you remember?" Steve rubs his head, trying to think. "Getting my ass handed to me by some clown with a flag on his face," he mutters. Carol nods and starts explaining. "The North Korean mission was a disaster. We had to pull out fast. We brought you back here to rest up. You've been out for 2 days. Steve tries to sit up and looks around, confused. "Where is here?" he asks. Carol gestures towards the window. Steve turns to look and is stunned to see the Eiffel Tower outside. "Oh no. This your idea of a joke, Danvers?" he mutters. Carol shrugs. "Right, because everyone says, 'That Carol, she's a real jokester.'" Steve, still frustrated, responds, "You can't blame me for the mission going wrong. Blame those incompetent..." Carol cuts him off sharply. "If this turns into an international incident, don't worry. There'll be plenty of blame to go around." She crosses her arms and adds, "The only reason we aren't in deep trouble yet is that the North Koreans don't know it was us, and the only person who could expose us is the guy you let escape." Steve narrows his eyes. "Just tell me who he is." Carol looks serious. "Frank Simpson." Steve frowns. "Who the hell is Frank Simpson?" Carol takes a deep breath. "Once upon a time, he was a lot like you. A kid who loved his country and wanted to serve. After you disappeared, the government tried to find someone to take your place." Steve's eyes widen. "Project Rebirth? They gave him the same serum they gave me?" Carol shakes her head slowly. "Not exactly. With you gone and Dr. Erskine dead, they had to start from scratch. After years of failure, they finally made a serum that showed promise, but they rushed it." Steve looks puzzled. "Rushed it? Why?" Carol sighs. "The war wasn't going well. Vietnam, remember?" Steve nods slowly. "Yeah, Vietnam." Carol continues. "One day, in 1972, he just walked into the jungle and disappeared." Steve leans forward. "Quit? Just like that?" Carol shrugs. "Maybe. But there were reports that suggested he didn't quit, that he switched sides." Steve's face hardens. "A traitor?" Carol nods. "They tried to bring him back, but then the war ended and he vanished. No one saw him again, until now." She pauses, then adds, "2 days ago, when he kicked your ass on a rooftop in North Korea." Steve clenches his fists. "So now he's working for the North Koreans?" Carol shakes her head. "Worse, the dead super soldier we found there, the one Simpson tried to incinerate, had a serum in his veins, a strain developed from Simpson's own blood. Our guess is that he's been hiding somewhere, trying to perfect the serum, and now he's selling it to everyone. We've had reports coming in for months, super soldier programs in Iran, China, even Al-Qaeda might have access to it." Steve glares out the window. "Just tell me when I'm getting out of here and going after him." Carol shakes her head firmly. "You get out of here as soon as the doctors clear you. But going after Simpson? Forget it. We barely avoided one international mess. I'm not risking another. This is Fury's problem now. You're not going near this, do you understand?" She points at him, her voice stern. "You will stay here in lovely scenic France. I hear the snails are great this time of year." Steve and Carol lock eyes for a long moment. Then Steve quietly asks, "You have no idea where he is, do you?" Carol doesn't flinch. "Not a clue, but I'm sure Fury's team will find him sooner or later. No need for you to do anything reckless." They stare at each other and Steve smirks slightly. You want me to go rogue, don't you? Carol raises an eyebrow. Do I? Steve leans closer. You put me in France and order me to stand down, knowing I'll ignore you and go after him anyway. Carol shrugs with a small smile. Is that what I did? That doesn't sound like me. Steve nods slowly. You need me to draw him out. You just want plausible deniability. Carol looks thoughtful. Sounds like a good plan. Wish I'd thought of it. She reaches down and pulls out a backpack. I did think to bring your costume and shield, though, just in case you want to wear them while touring the Louvre. Steve looks at her and then at the shield, understanding what she's really saying. After a long moment, he nods, deciding what to do next. A few days later, Captain America is in Cambodia, sitting in a small village restaurant. He scrunches his nose at the smell of the food and mutters, "Ugh, no thanks." He turns to the waiter and asks, "Got anything that doesn't smell like a cesspool?" As he leaves the restaurant, he notices a few men following him. They don't look ordinary, they move like soldiers, and they're armed. Suddenly, they attack. Steve fights back, dodging punches and throwing them off balance. He grabs one by the hair and growls, "Come here, pal. Got a few questions for you." The soldier tries to fight back, but Steve doesn't budge. Who sent you and your friends? Was it Simpson? Frank Simpson? The man sneers and says, Saloth. Steve frowns. Saloth? What the hell is Saloth? The soldier grins and points to the jungle. Just keep going. Saloth will find you. With a grim look, Steve releases him and starts marching toward the dense jungle, determined to find his enemy. After hours of walking, Steve finds a small, hidden village. He puts on his Captain America suit and steps into the middle of the village, shouting, "Frank Simpson, where is he? Don't even pretend you don't know." The villagers look scared, whispering among themselves. Steve continues, "I can help you. I can get you out of this place. Just speak up." And an old man steps forward, leaning on a stick. "I know what you're looking for." Steve turns to him, his face serious. "Yes, sir, I do. I'm looking for soldiers, big, strong men like me. Do you know where they are?" The old man smiles sadly. "We are all soldiers here, my friend." Steve looks around. "Where are the men? Where's Frank Simpson?" The old man's face tightens. "You are not the first to come here, you know. There were others, all big, strong, and loud like you." Steve narrows his eyes. "Yeah? And what happened to them?" The old man points to a giant pig nearby. "Don't ask me. Ask him. How do you think he got so fat?" Steve shakes his head in frustration. "Listen." The old man interrupts, his voice turning cold. "I used to fear that flag you wear. That flag dropped bombs and killed my brothers and sisters. But now, I am old, and I don't fear that flag anymore. I pity it. I pity you." Stevie turns away. "No war is ever perfect, but this flag has saved the world more times than I can count. If you can't see that, then..." The old man grabs Stevie's arm suddenly. "Where do you think you're going, American?" Steve is caught off guard. "Huh?" The old man's grip tightens as he says, "I told you, we are all soldiers here." He slaps Steve hard across the face, leaving him stunned. Steve barely recovers before he realizes that everyone around him is running toward him, all super soldiers. Steve is overwhelmed, shouting, "Good God, they're all super soldiers!" The villagers swarm him, beating him until he's on the ground, helpless. As he fades into unconsciousness, he hears a voice murmur, "Heh." The villagers step back and Frank Simpson steps forward, looking down at Steve. "Feel that, Cap? That fear, that anger, that sense of helplessness?" Frank kneels beside him, pressing his rifle against Steve's face. "That's America, Rogers, and you still don't get it."